Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and we're here today with special guest, Scott Stabile, who's here to share with us his new book, Enough as You Are. So can the power of self-love heal your life? Well, today, Scott Stabile is here to share with us just that. Now, Scott is the author of Big Love, The Power of Living with a Wide Open Heart. He's a passionate love advocate who believes that there is no force more powerful than love to create real connection and healing in our world. Scott guides transformational breathwork journeys and leads personal empowerment workshops internationally. So let's welcome to the show, Scott Stabile.
Thank you so much, Marianne.
Oh my goodness, what an honor it is to have you here and to have another discussion. I know it's been a little while. So what inspired you to write this book?
Well, this book is actually a compilation of a lot of the work that I've done for many years on social media with short prose and poetry that reflects on what I see as the critical importance of self-love and self-acceptance and taking responsibility for our lives and all that good stuff.
Well, and you start, of course, with the topic of love, in quite a bit of your work it's interwoven in that. And the first quote I come to talks about either all the people who love you are totally misguided or you're extremely lovable.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's page one. That's the first page of the book. Yeah, honestly, Marianne, I called the book Enough as You Are because my path in my life these past years has really been about focusing on the importance of self-love, and understanding that the way we connect with ourselves, the way we view ourselves is the foundation from which we engage with everyone else, which is to say that when I'm in good relationship with myself, when I'm really connected to myself as a worthy being, as a lovable being, as someone who is enough, the way that I'm going to engage with others is with that same grace, right? And at the same time, conversely, if my relationship with myself is one of consistent self-abuse and shame, how I'm going to be showing up in the world, in relationships and on social media and everywhere is going to be reflective of that relationship. So I'm a big fan of love, as you know, and making noise for the power of love, which I just see as energy. Love is energy, and it's energy that's alive within us and outside of us. And it's our choice to play with that energy, to act in alignment with that energy. And as much noise as I make for love, I've really come to understand that it all really does start from within. We hear that expression all the time, and it's so true. It's like how we interact with ourselves is critically important to how we show up. So I really encourage people to look at the relationship that they're developing with themselves and to understand that even if much of your life has been spent out of sync with self-love, and if you feel like you're not someone who has ever loved yourself or can't, that it's never too late to begin, right? We're here now, and it's always what we do from this moment on that matters the most. So if you are willing to get in better relationship with yourself, you are going to do it. It's like any skill, self-love, and you practice at it, you get better at it.
Well, I think that's such an important piece. And I, of course, love how you bring this all together, especially when we talk about the self-love part, because I'm sure a few people, when they heard that, they're like, ooh, I'm not sure I can accept that. And doesn't it seem that it's like really difficult for people to even love themselves?
It's incredibly difficult. If we just look at the world, it's incredibly difficult. And I think in part because we don't learn to that we this is not a priority. We don't learn this in school, right? And we also, I think that there's conditioning around the whole exercise or practice of self-love that it's selfish, and it is selfish. But what I would like to say is that in my opinion, it's the most beautiful selfishness that there is, because the energy of love is always all serving, which is to say that any work you do on yourself is going to transcend self. That's how love works. It's never limited to self. So I know that when I'm showing up for myself in a healthier way, what I'm offering my friends and family members and loved ones is a healthier version of myself, right? So I think that, I mean, I wish self-love were a class in school, starting in, I don't know, second grade, third grade, like start teaching children the importance of getting in good relationship with themselves. And Marianne, I know you can relate to this. Well, I don't want to speak for you, but I suspect you can relate to this. It's like we, as human beings, we want to feel good. That is an innate desire in all of us. And we also all want to love and to be loved. That is as innate a desire as anything. So when I pay attention to my life and to the choices I'm making, anytime I'm making choices or I'm saying things to myself or others that reflect love, that reflect compassion, that reflect forgiveness, I always feel better. Always, every single time. And so for me, it's understanding that this practice of love and self-love is a pathway to feeling better about yourself and your life, to generating deeper connections with others, and to create more meaning in your life in general. It's a win-win-win-win-win.
That's such an important piece, especially in today's society. And of course, you could speak for me because I'm right on the same bus you're traveling on here.
Exactly.
But when it comes to just society at large, I mean, you're so right, because we've got filters that tell us we're supposed to look like this and supposed to be so thin or so muscular, or you name it. So there's all these different, like, I look at them almost like costumes that we're wearing just so that people feel like they can fit in.
Absolutely. And it's conditioned, we're conditioned within an inch of our lives around appearance and beauty standards and all of that nonsense. And it's incredibly hard to transcend it. And I haven't transcended it. You know, I look in the mirror, I get out of the shower, I look in the mirror, and I see things about my body and about myself that I would rather look different. And for me, the gift of acceptance is understanding that though we all want to love and accept ourselves exactly as we are, very few of us are able to do that. And rather than shame myself for my inability to show up at the mirror and love everything I see, what acceptance calls me to do is to accept that there are parts of me that may never love everything about what I see in the mirror, and that too is okay. Like part of acceptance is accepting the parts of ourselves that can't accept all the parts of ourselves, right? Loving the parts that can't love all the parts of ourselves. When we have an expansive view of love and acceptance like this, what I create for myself is much more peace, like a much deeper understanding that all of what I'm experiencing, all of what I'm thinking and feeling is a part of this human experience. Even the stuff that's uncomfortable, even the things I don't like, it's all part of this human reality. And what is possible within us is to offer ourselves grace within the fullness of this human reality. And one of the ways I do that is just constantly remind myself, hey, you're human. It's okay. You're enough. Like, this too is human. You're still worthy. You're still enough. These gentle reminders that even when I'm making choices that I believe to be unhealthy for myself, that I am still worthy. I am still lovable. I am still okay. And because I've practiced it this so much, that is an offering I give to myself incredibly easily. Right? It's instinctive now. As soon as the self-abuse of the mind starts to play out, and it still does for me, like it does for everybody, I'm so exercised at offering, hey, you're still lovable, you're still beautiful, you're still worthy. And honestly, Marianne, it's changed my life. It has made my life so much more peaceful because I know that I've got my back. And when you know that you have your back, You're willing to take risks you might not have taken. You're willing to be more vulnerable in your connections that you might not have otherwise been, because you know on the other side of everything, you're going to be there to remind yourself that you are worthy and lovable just as you are.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's such an important piece, especially for those of us who are just trying to make it day by day, getting through whatever next challenge comes to us, then to be able to get to this place where we can find self-compassion. My goodness, what a gift that is.
It's the biggest gift. Honestly, I've never shamed myself into healing, and I've certainly loved myself into a better place again and again and again. And I just invite everyone listening to bring more awareness to when you find yourself in struggle or suffering, because so often what I have discovered is that when I'm suffering, it tends to be, not always, but it tends to be less about what the experience in the moment is and more about how my mind is judging myself within the context of the experience. I mean, an example of that is I'm someone who, can put down a pint of ice cream, no problem, in one sitting. And what I used to do when I would do that would be to beat myself up. So I'm eating this ice cream, whatever, enjoying it to some extent, but also like telling myself, you're unhealthy and this is a bad choice and you're harming yourself and you have no willpower, and all of these stories that make the experience of eating that pint of ice cream miserable and a struggle. But when you eliminate the shame, when you take out the story, all you're left with is you and the ice cream, which can actually be a wildly enjoyable experience, especially if you like ice cream as much as I do. And so for me, when I find myself suffering in some way, I know that there's always an invitation to consider, how am I judging what's going on right now instead of just being with what's going on right now? And usually there is a way that I am criticizing myself for the way that I'm showing up in the moment instead of just being with how I'm showing up in the moment. And again, even if it's not the healthiest choice or the best choice I can make, reminding myself that, hey, we don't always make the healthiest choices. We don't always make the best choices for ourselves. This too is okay. Next time, maybe you'll make a better choice for yourself. But right now, this is what you've decided to do, and there's no need to shame yourself for having done it. And this is just one of the ways that I practice at loving myself and accepting myself. And it makes a difference. I put a lot of intention into this because I know how it feels on the other side of it versus living in that easy cycle of self-abuse and self-shame that all of us live in way too often.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Scott Stabile in regards to his new book, Enough as You Are. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
What if everything we think we know about addiction, depression, anxiety, and trauma is missing the one key element that will actually let you walk away from them for good? My name's Bob Gardner, founder of The Freedom Specialist and creator of a body-based approach that eliminates suffering and creates happiness, health, and well-being on autopilot. You can read all about it in my book, Built for Freedom, or start your own adventure toward lasting freedom at thefreedomspecialist.com.
If you want to stop divorce fast, you do not need to waste years in therapy. You do not need to work on yourself, and you do not even have to have your spouse on board. If your spouse wants out, if they're filing for divorce, separation, or having an affair, what you need is a proven process to turn your marriage around. Book a free breakthrough session with us at highthrivecoaching.com/apply.
Dr. Richard London, who has 25 years of experience being known as the Man of Steel with the Heart of Velvet, presents the Life Wellness System, The Road to Yes, a mentoring system that brings you to becoming a wellness heir. Imagine having wealth, wellness, love, peace, and spirituality in abundance and balance now. Visit doctorateoflife.com or call 720-213-8021 for a free 15-minute wellness evaluation.
Hi, this is Jana Wilson, author of Wise Little One, Learning to Love and Listen to My Inner Child, a best-selling prescriptive memoir in inner child healing. I'm also the founder of the Emotional Healing System. The inner child, simply put, is your feelings, both positive and negative. If you'd like to learn to love and listen to your wise little one, pick up my book at Amazon or visit my website at janawilson.com. It's never too late to have a happy childhood.
The first thing you need to know about me is that I love my kids, but they are not my everything. They used to be, but that's when my entire life fell apart. In order to pick back up the pieces, I had to put the love I have for myself before everything else, including my kids. I'm Jessica Dennehy, and I own multiple businesses. I'm a best-selling author, and I have all the strategies that I've used to make my life what it is today. And I'm going to teach you how to do them in my new book, Selfish is a Superpower. So go get your copy today on Barnes & Noble or jessicadennehy.com.
Announcing a revolutionary tool for wellness. Scalar Light has the ability to enhance and harmonize your own bioenergies. With Scalar Light, you can get started in just minutes and begin feeling better the very next day. Scalar Light is a remote energy that gently and subtly works with your own body's bioenergies, increases pro-cellular wellness, and enhances your body's immunity.
Experience the benefits of Scalar Light. Try a complimentary 15-day experience at scalarlight.com.
In your hands lie ancestral patterns. These patterns shape how you think, what you struggle with, and experiences you love, your life pattern. We're going into the latest neuroscience of biological hand analysis, a realm beyond palmistry where science and the soul entwine. Hand analysis is the latest method to transform lifelong patterns. I am Master Hand Analyst Brent Bruning. Join us and visit thepowerinyourhands.com.
Pandemonium. Fast forward 20 years. A U.S. president seizes control of all U.S. missiles, the power grid, the banking system, and every computer in America as he hides in an underground bunker. Pandemonium, a captivating sci-fi thriller where a hidden war, psychics, aliens, artificial intelligence, and transcendental love collide with the latest media technology. Pandemonium, live to all devices. Get your copy on paperback or digital. Free sample at getpsychic.org.
I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here today with special guest Scott Stabile in regards to his new book, Enough as You Are. Before we left for break, you were talking about a couple practices that you personally use, and you showed how to dive into these practices of self-love and self-compassion that I thought were so empowering. The practices you shared allowed us to come to this place where we can deeply focus how things have transpired in our lives with non-judgment, but also with compassion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have what's in front of us in any given moment, right? And, I would say one of the things I say as often as any other is just that if you did no other thing but pay attention to the choices you're making and give more energy to the choices that feel good and add more meaning to your life and add more connection to your life, and start eliminating the choices that deplete you, that have you feeling bad, you would change your life overnight. And the choices, for me, the most important choices in that are the way that I am shaming and thinking about myself based on what I'm doing.
Okay, I felt that one. I felt that. I was like, "Ooh, I've done that many times, many, many, many times." But it's nice to be able to get to this place because I'm sure everyone can relate. I mean, we're like get a little cringy moments. We're like, "Oh, I wish I could have done this better," or handled this in a different way. And to get to a point where we can find self-compassion for ourselves during this, I mean, that's just such a gift.
Absolutely. And look, I suspect there are people listening to this who struggle to love themselves. I give a lot of self-love workshops, and there are always people in the workshops who say to me, I do not know how to love myself, and I never have known. And to people who say to me, I do not know how to love myself, or I'm unable to love myself, one thing I'd like to emphasize is that if you are able to love anybody in the world, then you are certainly able to love yourself, because again, love is just an energy that we get to play with, and we get to decide how we want to direct it and toward whom we want to direct it. And I would also encourage all of us to look at the ways that we actually are loving ourselves already that we tend to take for granted. Every time you brush your teeth, that is an act of self-love. Every time you take a shower, every time you prepare for yourself a meal that makes you feel good, every time you put on clothing that makes you feel good, these are all ways that we are daily loving ourselves. And yet it's just so easy to take for granted these choices. But I really encourage us all to stop taking them for granted, especially if we believe that we are not showing up with self-love. Because even if you just take a few moments as you're cooking yourself that meal to acknowledge, hey, this is me loving myself right now. This is me taking care of myself in a very tangible, important way right now. By doing that, by acknowledging it, we're giving energy to the act of self-love. And what that naturally does is it invites more acts of self-love. I see everything as energy. All of our thoughts, all of our words, all of our actions, it's all just energy in motion. And energy creates momentum. So the more energy we give to anything that has to do with self-compassion and self-love, the more naturally we build on that self-compassion and self-love until we start to discover, hey, I actually am loving myself. This is me loving myself.
Your book is broken up into 3 parts. Can you share about that with us?
Oh, sure. That kind of naturally happened. I was looking at all the different things that I was writing, and the writings always are either toward you, like the one you read, either all the people who love you are totally, I'm forgetting it now, but, or you're incredibly lovable. And then, so the first section is all towards you. And it's kind of, the energy of it is very cheerleady, like a reminder of your worth and that you're beautiful and that you're enough as you are. The second section is me. So all of those pieces are written in first person, I, blah, blah, blah. And that one is a bit more like personal responsibility, and really taking an honest look at how I'm showing up and how we can still within that make space for self-compassion and self-love. And then the third section is us. And those are a lot of we writings. And that section is really kind of a blend of the first 2 sections, but somewhat of a call to action for all of us to take responsibility and to start shining love not only on ourselves, but on one another. And yeah, so those are the 3 sections. And all of it, I mean, this book for me it's the type of book that you can either read it, cover to cover all the way through, or you can almost look at it the way you might look at an oracle card set and just close your eyes, hold the book open and turn it to any page and read that message for the day and meditate on that. Take it in, see how that impacts your life, reflect on it through the lens of your personal experience.
What is one of the messages that you have in your book that you'd like to share that really kind of sticks with you on a daily basis?
I mean, everything I honestly, I would say that looking at, we are so conditioned to try to ostracize the parts within us that don't feel good. For me, what comes up right away is envy. My mind can be wildly envious. My mind can also be wildly jealous. These are parts that are incredibly uncomfortable to hold space for in an honest way. And one of the messages of this book is, what happens instead of trying to put those parts in the dungeon and hide them away where they're sure to be beating on the door to make themselves heard? What happens if we offer all aspects of ourselves a place at the table? And instead of with shame, with love. And what I've discovered is that when my envy surfaces, in the past, when I try to shut it down or pretend it's not happening or shun it or shame it, all it does is get louder. But now when I'm feeling envious of someone, it still doesn't feel comfortable. It's an awful feeling, especially if that envy is directed towards someone you love. But now what I do when I'm feeling envy is, I'm like, in myself, I just say, okay, this is just envy. And it's entirely human to feel envy. Every human mind on the planet is envious at some point. And you too, envy, are welcome here. And for me, the experience of doing that, it dissipates those feelings of envy more quickly. And more importantly, while I am feeling those feelings of envy, all I'm feeling is the discomfort of the envy without all of the shame that I used to pile on it. And so one of the important aspects of this book is just this invitation to make space for all of who you are, even what we refer to as the ugly bits, the unlikable bits. Everyone has them. Right? This is part of the human experience. And the more we play with self-love, the more we play with self-compassion, the more available we become to these uncomfortable, uglier bits. And the more willing we are to give them a seat at the table. And by doing so, the less noisy they become, at least in my experience.
You have so many messages within your book that I felt so touching. And I think the last one in your book is no exception. I mean, when we look at it, it says, when in doubt, just love. And it really kind of sits with me on a daily basis, because so often are we coming against things that make us want to be less than loving.
Oh, yeah. We're getting invitations all the time to be less than loving. If you spend 2 minutes on social media, you're bound to get a lot of invitations to be less than loving. And what's funny about that is that it's often harder to show up, especially in the face of some of the ugliness we see in the world. It can be the harder choice to be loving, but it's always the harder choice not to be, in terms of how it feels inside, right? Because it may be harder to get ourselves, to nudge ourselves to a place to show up with love. But whenever I do, I always feel better about myself and my experience. And whenever I don't show up for love, because it can be easy just to be angry or retaliatory, I always feel out of sync in my body, out of alignment, like I've ripped myself away from what I know to be my truest home.
What do you want to share with our listeners in regards to your book? Like, how could they use this? They just pick it up and look at just any page on a certain day, or how should they use this book?
They should use it in whatever way feels great for them. I know that a lot of people are just, reading it the way you would read any book, but I really believe this to be the type of book you can leave at your bedside table. And if you just need, it's like, I need some guidance right now. I need a message. Just close your eyes and open it to some page and see what comes up for you. I just did that now. May I read to you the page that I turned to?
Of course.
All right, this is what I just turned to. Along with being joyful, let me be okay with my sadness. As well as belonging, let me be at peace with my loneliness. Let me cradle my anger with the same acceptance I bring to my compassion, and hold space for my insecurity as I do for the belief in myself. Being human isn't easy a lot of the time, but I see how much harder I make it by resisting my complete humanity, by welcoming what's easy to accept about myself while avoiding what's difficult to own. I am no longer interested in rejecting any part of myself. All aspects of who I am are welcome here, and none will any longer be received with shame. To all of myself I will say, again and again, I love you. You have a home here always. I love you.
Wow, that was so profound. Thank you for reading that.
Oh, thank you. I'm really happy I turned to that page because that really does emphasize a lot of what this book is about. It's like whoever I am has a home inside of myself. What all the aspects of my personality they all have a home inside of myself. And I am not interested any longer in going to war with any part of who I am. Not even my mind, that is the place that wants to go to war with the parts of who I am. Even my mind, I will shine love on. And I may not internalize its messages the way I used to, thankfully, because a lot of those messages were self-abusive and shameful. But I do acknowledge that, our minds are expansive creations, and they can be wildly creative and beautiful, and they can also be incredibly violent and unstable. But in no way do I want to go to war with who I am anymore.
I think it's such a great reminder for so many people who are struggling, not just with the outside world, but their inner world as well. Oh my goodness, Scott. I mean, your book is just fabulous. I love Enough As You Are. Congratulations on the release of it.
Thank you so much, Marianne. And thank you so much for having me back on your program. It's really lovely to talk to you again.
Where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about your work and be part of your community?
Yeah, I really invite listeners to check out my newsletter on Substack. It's just scottstabile.substack.com. And, I send out newsletters maybe 2 to 3 times a month with thoughts and feelings about what's going on. And that's a great way to connect with me. And of course, through Instagram and Facebook, you'll get to see lots of types of the writings that I just read here. And my website, scottstabile.com.
Well, thank you, Scott. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you today.
Thank you so much, Marianne.
Well, thank you, Scott. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, Enough As You Are. Enough As You Are is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And remember, support our indie bookstores. If you don't see it on the shelf, just ask for them to order it. You can also purchase this book directly from the publisher, New World Library, at newworldlibrary.com. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary. A recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.